also the Supervisory Board of Indonesia Petroleum Association from 2016 and 2009. Okay, and the third speaker is Miss Melanie Cook, President of ExxonMobil Indonesia. Ibu Melanie, originally from Australia, and she hold the position starting 1st of August 2020. Melanie have the engineering and science from University of Melbourne. Throughout her career with the ExxonMobil, Ms. Cook also a senior technical supervisory and management position in several countries with portfolio covering Australia, Europe, Russia, Caspian, America, and Malaysia. Ms. Cook's latest role prior to assignment was a senior general manager production of ExxonMobil Malaysia. As the president of ExxonMobil affiliates in Indonesia, Ms. Cook is responsible for overseeing Cepu block production and also growing downstream and chemical businesses, while also leading external relationship with the partners, government, and key stakeholders. Okay, and the fourth speaker is Ibu Dian Andia Suri, the country chair and president director of Shell Indonesia. Ibu Dian became the first female to hold both president director and director of lubricant position in Shell Indonesia. Ibu Dian started her career in Shell in 2008 as a finance general manager for retail fuel business at the Shell Global Downstream Strategy and Consultancy Group based in Singapore. In 2004, the vice president as a vice president marketing for Shell Lubricant Indonesia, and 2016 as a director of Shell Lubricant Indonesia. Ibu Dian earned an MBA in finance from Brunel University, United Kingdom, through the Chevening Scholarship. Prior to Shell, Ibu Dian has the 15 years of professional experience handling various roles in Europe, United States of America, Australia, including as a strategist and finance leader in Thames Water, PA Consulting, and also Hutchinson's Telco. As a professional for, Ibu Dian married with the blessed one daughter and enjoy reading books and spending her time with the family. Okay, we're going to also listen to the first speakers. If you're going to ask the question, there is a session Q&A after this, but you can also put the question on the chat box. And we're going to select 1 to 3 each speaker to be able to answer in Q&A session. For not of further ado, I would like to ask the first speakers, Ibu Sauna, to give the presentation.
Excellent. Well, good evening. And for me, it's good morning. So please excuse me while I drink copious amounts of coffee. It is 6 in the morning here in Houston. All right, see if we can go into screen sharing mode. And again, first of all, wow, I am honored to be on such a esteemed panel, and you're going to be hearing a lot of different stories and career pathways, and I'm excited to hear the stories of my fellow panelists. Now, I know you heard, all these, components in the bios, but the one thing that I'm most proud of in my career is that I had one while raising 2 daughters, and I have 2 beautiful daughters that are in university right now. And I like to think I managed to balance both a career and be a good mom. Mind you, they might say different. Anyway, let's go to the next slide, please. Again, so my slides are basically components of what I've given at Women in Energy and Diversity Inclusion events all over the world while I was SPE president. And I realized the issues are different depending where you go. The women in Russia have different issues as opposed to the women in the Middle East, the women in South America. And I am sad because of the pandemic that I wasn't able to come to Indonesia as SPE president. But my years when I was working with Chevron, I used to come to Indonesia quite regularly because of, we had Minas Rumbai and Dury. And I used to work in the trenches there many years ago. And hopefully I can return to your beautiful country sometime in the near future, once we put this crazy 2020 year behind us. Again, this is not meant to be a lecture. It's meant to be starting seeds of thought for a discussion, because the issue of diversity and inclusion in our industry, it is an issue. And we need all to be talking about it and raising the different components and then creating actions around them. And this is one thing I'm very proud within SPE. You know, we had started several years ago a women in energy program that just exploded across the globe. And then just recently, we've rebranded that program for the diversity and inclusion, because we really realized, you know, we were missing the bigger picture. We need to be discussing all elements of diversity and inclusion. So let's quick go to the next slide, please. Oh, we're missing a quick animation. I guess you're click it one more time. So, you know, my quick story quickly is I'm a petroleum engineer, a rare one from Canada. And when I graduated university, I had a choice either to go out in the field to be a rig supervisor with Chevron, or I had some nice office job offers. And even though I knew that it would be important for me to take that field position as opposed to an office right out of university, I had no idea how important of a decision that was, and how many doors it would either open or close for me deciding which way I was going to go. So I worked in Northern Canada, being the only women working the rigs for about 3 to 5 years. And then I slowly started to make my way into the office. And my career path has always been technical, but every rung on my career ladder, I can attribute to SPE. And I know we don't have time now, because again, I want to listen to the rest of my wonderful panelists. But, you know, whether it's through writing papers or volunteering on program committees, really I can attribute every component of my success in my career to something that I had done within SPE. And then, of course, you know, I know a lot of people aren't referring to 2020 as a wonderful year, but in essence, it was for me, because I got to serve as president and really, you know, try and serve and deliver on programs and tools for my fellow SPE family. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right. So first, I want to quick talk about, there's a study that came out in 2019. And actually, the same study just came out for 2020 version that has to do with the impact of pandemic. But in the next few slides, we're going to kind of delve into this, because it was one of the largest corporate studies within STEM and within oil and gas, really to try and understand why there were very few women at the top rungs. And this study included about 600 corporations and probably about 500,000 volunteers. I shouldn't say probably, it did. It was just under about 500,000 respondents to the survey. And one of the big conclusions they came out with was there were really 2 hurdles for women, both in STEM and oil and gas, but it was more prevalent in oil and gas. And the first had to do with that very first promotion. And we'll delve into some of the reasonings for that in some future slides. And then the other big hurdle where they really started to see the disconnect between women and men were, again, that first promotion into upper management level. But again, you know, and that the second bullet at the bottom, you know, this is one thing we've really been working hard within SPE is we're already looking at a limited feedstock of women coming into our industry because they're not entering STEM. So one of the big proponents of our program within SPE is not only to get into the schools and start showing the face of women in the industry and the, you know, kind of dispel the myths of, you know, the lack of diversity inclusion and even the lack in work-life balance. So we can really get them attracted to come into our industry. But again, too, you know, this is just going to be statistics from the United States because there's other parts of the world that aren't necessarily seeing this. For example, the Middle East, when I've toured some of the SPE sections that were there, there is almost a 50-50 of women in the STEM programs and coming up through the universities. But then their challenges is more once they graduate, they either don't enter the industry because they become full-time mothers, or at some point when they do start to have children, they leave the industry and they don't come back. So this is why, you know, it's important to understand that issues are different in different parts of the world. And just go to the next slide, please. So the first one, and you can click it once more because there's a graph there. So this really dissects, you know, getting that first promotion. And this is now where I realized the importance of my decision when I decided to go in operations early in my career. Is a lot of senior management roles in oil and gas companies and even in service companies, they pretty much require you to have worked in the trenches in order to be qualified for those positions. And a lot of women that I've run across choose not to do that, and with them not realizing that really ends up closing a lot of doors later on. And you can see in this slide too the disparity towards, you know, those that are more operational divisions versus ones that are maybe more office. So when I tour and I talk to students, and this is true whether it's male or female, the importance of getting that, whether it's that field exposure, plant exposure, manufacturing exposure, it's really going to open up more and more doors later in the career. Let's go to the next slide. All right, and then the big hurdle, again, they're addressing is getting into that upper management level. And the fact that because there are basically few women candidates, and maybe some of those women candidates did not get the amount of exposure within the company to properly qualify them for those jobs, there's even less to actually choose from. And you know, they discuss here about this hollow middle too, like during the last downturn, when we lost a lot of people in our industry, many of the men came back, but many of the women did not. And this is actually the focus of the 2020 study with the pandemic, because that's one of the huge concerns is, again, we might be creating not only another hollow middle, but it's going to be bigger than the one that we had during the last downturn. I know there was a bullet just on the previous slide. You don't have to go there, but it talked about too, when I said exposure, that, you know, especially in a lot of larger oil and gas companies, they expect you to work in different locations. I know when I was at Chevron, we were actually required every year, there was a list that had all the company locations on it, and we had to rank by location which ones you could send me to tomorrow, or I'd consider you sending me there. Now, there was an option that says, please don't ever send me, but we were basically told by management that that was not an option. And as a young mother at that time, with a husband that was just starting on a good career, that was not really an option for me. So that was one of the reasons why I had actually left Chevron. Just you know, there are a few other reasons, but that was a big one, and the fact that mobility was not an option for me at that time. Let's go to the next slide, please. Sorry, I'm having to do Zoom off my phone, so I can't advance my own slides. Again, it's a security issue with my company. And another thing we talk about, and both with the men and the women, but I see it more predominantly in the woman, is this concept on confidence gap. You know, and it holds you back and closes doors for so many reasons, as to women typically don't apply for positions that, unless they're completely confident they're 100% they meet the qualifications, or asking for raises or promotions, or, you know, wanting to step up and be that team leader. And that's one of the things we're really trying to address within SPE is a lot of conversation series on shoring up that confidence, because it really does hold ourselves back. And I use this concept of self-imposed ceilings, and a lack of confidence does really kind of create a self-imposed ceiling for a lot of people. And it's just really working on just people believing in themselves and then reaching for those rungs. Let's go to the next slide. And then one thing I will also talk a lot about, and this is a relatively new concept that's being embraced in oil and gas. I first heard about it from Fabrice Bouchard, who is the head of HR for Schlumberger. And it's these 6 elements now that they are assessing their employees on. And actually at that same panel that when I heard this, there was the head of HR for BP, and she was talking about how they're embracing this. And I'm slowly starting to see this concept percolate. And it used to be to work your way up to the various rungs, you were assessed on your experience and your competency. But companies are really realizing there are other elements that bring value to as an employee. And this is one thing I really hone with men and women, is being strong in these other elements. I already talked a little bit about the exposure, you know, the impact on your network, because you're never going to know all the answers all the time, but someone in your network probably does. The importance of the networking. And then the big ones there at the bottom are the behaviors and the brands. And I'm going to get into in a minute how some of these are maybe a little bit more challenging for women than men, as far as some habits or behaviors that kind of hold us back. But here, why don't you click it? I think there's an animation there related to SPE. And this is why, yeah, you can keep clicking until we get all the little elements there. And this is why, you know, there's so many programs and tools and resources within SPE to allow you to gain value, in all these elements to really increase your human capital. So I use this term. It's one thing to be an SPE member, but I equate an SPE membership like a gym membership. Just because you have one doesn't mean you're going to be getting stronger if you're not actually going to the gym and using the equipment. Now, I know right now, especially this year, we're not really going a lot anywhere, but there's in the virtual and digital environment, there's so many events and tools that you can be using right now to increase your human capital on all these elements. Let's go to the next slide. Now you can click it and get all the animations. So there's one book that I really wish I had read decades ago, because it would have really helped me understand in self-reflection some of the behaviors that I had that were holding me back, possibly from being considered from leadership positions or for promotions. And even though it talks about some of these habits that women have, as a manager, I've actually seen a lot of these traits in men as well. So again, instead of just being gender specific, just overall diversity, where, for example, men typically do a better job of leveraging their network as far as calling in favors, for example, than women do. One thing I was guilty of was what they call minimizing. When if it was a big conference room, I tended to always take a seat at the back. And I used the excuse as to, oh, I like to observe everybody in the room. But really, you know, the perception from others is, you know, I did not consider myself important enough to take that seat up there at the conference table. So that's a behavior that I've now stopped. And same too, I'm a very emotional person, and there's times where I just basically have to walk away from a situation, or maybe not reply to that email right away, so I don't get those emotions in there and possibly kind of impact a relationship, for example, with a team member. And also too, women are really reluctant more than men to actually claim achievements. And there's this phrase, you know, toot your own horn, especially in our industry, or well, in any industry, it's a lot of times it's something you do have to do, because you may realize the value that you bring to your organization, but if management doesn't know that value, that's an issue. So it's one thing I stress that actually, I think that might be in this next slide, is first of all, knowing the value you bring to the company. And when I mean value, we're talking in terms of dollars and barrels, because that's what management understands. And if you do know the value, most importantly, does your management know? So when a lot of the talks that I give, we work on communication plans, especially setting out at the beginning of the year as to how are you going to communicate in different scenarios your value to the company. You know, our industry is cyclical, it's ups and downs, but if you are an employee that is contributing to the bottom line, that's your job security. Companies don't let go their most valuable employees. Let's go to the next slide. Right, so this is my last one, and this is actually one of my summary slides when I talk about self-imposed ceilings. The decisions earlier in your career as to the roles, really think long-term with those decisions and think, you know, what doors would they open? Or if you don't, if you make the wrong decision, what doors do they close? And again, really stressing getting the chance to work in operations, whether it's in a field location, in a plant, in a refinery, having that is that operational experience. You can see, because the statistics are there. You know, that's basically a requirement for a lot of people in the C-suite. And again, having the confidence in yourself. You know, sometimes that's one of the most challenging things for people, but we're starting on a new year, is just right around the corner. So perhaps start setting up some goals on how to actually increase that confidence. And, you know, for myself, one of the things I've been working on is the self-sabotaging behaviors that I know I have. And again, that book for me has been really helpful. And I know there are others just like that. And then most importantly, understand the value that you bring when you create your goals. Make sure that they're goals that you can, the end product is something in dollars and barrels, whether you're saving the company money, making the company money, finding barrels, producing barrels. And then make sure management knows when you have that 30-second elevator speech when we're allowed back in the office, or a chance to be at an industry event with some upper management. You know, are you going to talk about the weather, or are you going to use those 30 seconds to say, hey, my name is Shauna Noonan. I just finished this project where I managed to find an extra so many thousand barrels for the company. So with that, hopefully I've started to plant a whole bunch of seeds in this. And now I just can't wait to hear the stories and the messages from the rest of my panelists. Once again, I'm honored to be a part of this today. Oh yes, and this is one big quote that I love from Warren Buffett, in that there's not one investment that supersedes just investing in yourself. And that's really what I look at an SPE membership. The cost of an SPE membership, for me, that was an investment that has paid off in spades. Again, I would have not achieved the level that I have not only within SPE and my company, if it wasn't for everything that I had done within SPE along the way. So with that, thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing from our next three panelists.
Okay, thank you, Miss Sauna Nunan. What I received the message is be confident wherever you are, even in the network, in your job, and also be courageous. Don't be afraid to take a new challenge, even though you don't have experience before. And also be creative and also contribute what you have to the company. As mentioned, give a value and also give some contribution that benefit to the company. Okay, to the next. Thank you, Ms. Sauna Nunan. So we are going to next speakers. Now, Ibu Evita, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mbak Nisa. So, and thank you to invite me to talk in this important event. For me, it's just very important for the young generation. And I'm also very happy because today I see not only ladies, but also many men here with us. Yeah. Can you give me the slideshow, Mbak Vanya? Hello, can you give me the last slideshow?
Can you see the share screen? No, not yet?
Yeah, I can see the share screen, but it's not yet the slideshow.
Wait.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what I would like to share with all of you here, younger generation, is about a little about my experiences and about women in Indonesia, women in oil and gas, the future of oil and gas, role of women energy, challenges, and closing. I write down this is actually also referred to the reference from the committee. So thank you very much. Yeah. Next. Next, please. Hello. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So actually, in the beginning, I don't want to share really what is my experience, but then I saw these quotes that if your action inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. So I think I have the obligation to share my experience with you. Yeah. So, and please, here also John F. Kennedy, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. So please never stop to learn wherever you are. Yeah. Next. Yeah, so actually where the leadership experience coming from during your education, you will understand about it. And I have the opportunity also became the first woman as a woman director in Research and Development Center in Limigas, and also the first woman as director general of oil and gas in Indonesia. And I have also many experiences and lead delegation or energy delegation of Indonesia in many countries. Yeah, and then after the retirement, I have asked before this, what would you do after your retirement? Now I have many bosses. So before I only have one boss, but now I have many because I'm also an energy lecturer now. I also board of commissioner in the industries, not only one. And I was also 3 years, 2016, 2019, as the IPA supervisory board. And recently, I also appointed to be a supervisory board for oil palm plantation fund management board. So this is so, as I mentioned, I have many bosses now, and it should be it looks like that I should not stop yet. So next, so women in Indonesia, yeah, next. I just would like to show you that we are now, Indonesia is in the fourth population in the world. But next, you will see here for the next slide, yeah, how is the distribution of AIDS is almost the same between men and women. It means also for me, it looks like it's really that we have the same opportunity about men and women, yeah. But what happened is next, you will see here, this is the energy mining is very low. Women here is how there is very low, yeah, only 0.05%. If you compare with other possibility in agriculture and trading and others, this is mining or energy is very low. The percentage of women in Indonesia working. This is new data actually February 2020. Yeah, next. Here is now as I would like to talk about the civil servants or the government officials. If we see by the distribution by gender year to year, it looks like that starting 2018, now women is more than men. Yeah, you will see here. So starting is, but it's not yet long, just starting 2018. In 2017 is what it was very low, but after that it's increasing and even now bigger than the men. This is the data from June 2020. So it's new also data. Next. But if you see here, the civil servant by occupational and gender, this is the data, of course, from 2017 and December 2018. It means it's not really reflected what happened before, yeah. But if you see here, as a leader in the government official is starting this side, the structural. You see here that here is the male, and here is female. You will see that the female is very low if you compare with the male as a leader in the organization. Yeah, actually around half of it, 50% of it. Yeah, hopefully with this condition that starting 2018 is the woman is more. Hopefully it will be more female also be a leader in the governmental institution. Next. Now we will see in the oil and gas. Here is globally, you will see also that actually, although now I have the opportunity now, it's very honor for me also to talk with 4 leaders in women leaders now in energy or oil and gas sectors. but globally is still also lower than men, if you can see here. Yeah. And also here is for the 16 to totally 16 to 84%, still very low. Yeah. Next. And here is in Indonesia now. Here is composition of oil and gas employees based on gender in Indonesia. This is one DG of oil and gas. Here is from the upstream. Here is from the downstream. Yeah, and here from the contractors. Here is companies from the downstream business. Here from the inspection service company. Here for supporting service companies. You will see here that women is also in amount. It's not only as a leader, but in general, women is also very, very small. If you see here. Yeah, it's very small if you compare with men. So this is the condition in oil and gas in Indonesia. Next. And position, yeah, now is you can be a director general, but only me, it was 2008, 2012. Leader of oil and gas company. We have Ibu Dian here, yeah. We have Ibu Melanie here. The public relation manager, leader on engineering unit, technician in the field, and also field operator. This is the possibility you are where you are. Yeah. Next. And you see here, if we compare female labor in oil and gas mining all over the world. So here Indonesia is only 6.7%. Yeah. So it is still very low if you compare with Canada, for example. Australia is more than Indonesia. Yeah. Next. Future of oil and gas, because this is next. Yeah, this is a question actually coming from the committee. So I just would like to show you here that actually until 2050, whatever you choose the condition, yeah, whether it's the normal or the with net zero or rapid or the business as usual, we will still need oil and gas. We still need oil and gas. So younger generation, if you work or your expert is on oil and gas, so do not so worry, because we will need it until 2050. We still need it. Yeah. Next. Here is the condition of the global primary energy demand growth scenario. You see, even here is we impacted by the virus. You will see if you have a good how you take care of the COVID is good enough, it will be coming back around 2020. But if not so good, it will be, if everything going back is 2025. So, but anyway, we will still need oil and gas. Yeah. Next. Yeah. Now role of women in energy. So in impressions from the outside, you will see that actually energy sector is hard, is dirty, far from town, being in the middle of the jungle. Yeah. But you can be still as a policy or regulatory maker. You can be also in operation. You can be in supporting industry and transportation and also in marketing. Next. Yeah. And actually, what is the opportunities that you can do? You can work there. So with academic expertise, you can be, you will have a role in the government, role in scientific field as a researcher and others in the business and information technology, technical-based roles, and also other quality. Yeah? And without special academic skills, you can be still in the office administration, in the catering, janitor, field work, and also data entry. This is the opportunities that you can have it in the energy sectors. Next. Now, if you, it is also asking by the committee actually, skills needed to be a leader. This is according to my own experience. You have to be focused. You already get some recipe from Ibu Nunan, but this is from me. You should be focused. Your commitment, it is needed. Balance. Why it is balanced? Because in my experience as a DG of oil and gas, I have to really try to balancing the need of the government, the need of the investor, and also the opinion from the DPR or the parliament. Yeah. And honest. Honest here is actually honest to ourselves. Because if you cannot honest to yourself, it will be bothering. You cannot enjoy your work. Wherever you are, please enjoy your work, enjoy your assignment. Yeah. And of course, you have to have the strategic thinking. You should put communication and active listening and also reliable. Reliable is for me is very important, because if you are not reliable, it will be not easy. Yeah. Next. Now the challenges for the woman especially. Yeah. Next. There are two kinds. I try to differentiate internal challenges and external challenges. And the internal challenges, of course, you will need support and understanding from the family. Yeah. Commitment in the to the opinion of a woman role as a housewife, career, or both. You have to commit which one. As a woman, as a, or both. You have to commit to be a career woman or as a housewife, or both. Yeah. Living away from home and loved ones is possible. Long hours and also safe work. Because I remember, if I as still a DG, if I can be in my house at 11 p.m. is already, thanks God. Yeah. So for the external challenge, the image is formed that require physical ability to work in the remote areas, and this forms a paradigm in this industry. Yeah. Activities in the energy industry which are considered to be men's work because they deal with field activities, hard object, large, heavy equipment, location away from urban, not affected by day and night, must not go home for a long time, and high risk of accidents. Yeah, this is from the challenge, from the external challenges. Next. Now, as a closing, next, it's actually I would like to talk directly to you, to dear young generation, especially ladies. Actually, according to Indonesian regulation, there is no difference in assigning position for women and men in the energy industry, and also is also for your income is also no difference at all in Indonesia. Increasing professionalism in the work environment is carried out without differentiating between men and women. However, this is however. However, in general, women need to make a harder effort to get the same position. Women need additional efforts, proving their equal or greater ability than men, as also Ibu Nunan mentioned before. Yeah, the very masculine image of the energy industry is not quite right. It is evident that women can do it in this sector. The employment choice and commitment receipt written to the women themselves. So please just asking yourself, what do you want to do? Whether you want to be a career woman and or a housewife or both. So as I mentioned in my experience before, balancing is very, very important. Yeah. So this is actually my closing for the young generation, because part of you, I also see many of my students are also here. Thank you for listening. Yeah. So thank you very much. So I think thank you for next. Yeah. So thank you for the your attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Vita. I put some notes here. Is one of the important thing that I think we have to balance and we have to understand what we actually want. So it's kind of like what is your mission, vision, and goal in your career. But in terms of as a woman, we also have to balance between family and also between our career and also support from family. I think it's also important. And also as some of the leadership key points like listening, just be yourself, be honest, and also focus, commitment. And what I see now, a lot of civil servant is come from women, and hopefully in the future there are also a lot of female leader in the government official also.
Amin.
I mean, so we will continue. Thank you, Bu Evita. Continue for the third speaker, Ibu Melanie Cook.
Good evening, everybody. Good morning, Shauna. And for anyone else, whatever time of the day it is, wherever you are, welcome. And I'd first like to start by giving my heartfelt thanks to SPE for this very kind invitation. I'm really, really thrilled to be part of this panel. And, you know, I really just wanted to have a little bit of a conversation here that really builds on a lot of the points that you've already heard, but a little bit of some perspectives about who I am, where I've come from, and you know, what my career has looked like, just to add some more colour and movement to the discussion. So if we could, we'll just go ahead and get started. Do we want to put it into presentation mode, possibly? I don't make it a little larger for people to see, or zoom it in a bit. I don't know if everyone can see it okay. But just while we do that, so as you may tell from my accent, I am not Indonesian, and I'm not American, even though I work for an American company. I was born and raised in Australia, and you can see here some photos of people that have been very important in my life, my parents. On the bottom left, a photo of my parents on their wedding day. And I put this photo in because it's very significant to me in the way that I was brought up. In those days, when women married in Australia, the expectation was that you stopped working. And so that's exactly what my mum did. She quit her job, her very well-paid job as a professional assistant in a big company, because she was now a married woman. And the expectation was that she be home to look after her husband, who is my dad that you see in the photo in the middle there, a plumber, grew up in running his own business. And my mum realised after a short while she's at home cooking, doing house chores that she was not enjoying, that why is it so that her husband could continue in a small business, but she couldn't? So she decided that she was going to go ahead and start her own business. And she ran a printing company in the days before we all had home printers and photocopiers and all the eases of technology that we have at home today. She ran a printing company that allowed companies to print brochures and newsletters, and you know, and allow institutions like SPE to get materials distributed to their members. So, but what the other thing that was unique about her story was that she employed only women who could not otherwise get roles in the workforce. That is, women who were married, women who had small children, but had a need and a thirst for some professional fulfillment, and in fact to be able to financially contribute to the household. So, you know, I grew up in a household that was a little bit different from that point of view, and I am forever grateful to my mum for instilling that sense of anything is possible if you work hard. So if we go to the next slide, a little bit about how I ended up in the field of engineering. As I said, my dad was a plumber, and so I was always the child that was following him around the house, watching him fix this and that and asking him how things worked. I was also the first in my family to graduate from high school. My parents had to leave school early in order to be able to contribute to their family's, income. And so, you know, I felt a lot of expectation on me as to how can I fulfill these very high, you know, hopes that they have for me. But I was squeamish, so nothing medical was ever on the cards, and I loved knowing how things work. So that's really what led me to the field of engineering. So if you go to the next slide, a little bit about the career that I've been able to enjoy so far. So I joined ExxonMobil as a graduate, and I had a 5-year plan to stay with the company. You know, I did not have any sense that I was going to, continue to stay on with ExxonMobil now more than 25 years. And, you know, a really big part of that has been the opportunities I've been given, but more importantly, the support that I've had from my family. So you'll see that there's some photos of me in the field. I've had a lot of operations roles, just as Shauna described as well. But really the purpose of showing these photos is for me to really point out the importance that my husband has played in my ability to continue my career with ExxonMobil. As you can see, in the words on the left, there were lots of milestones that have happened for us over the years. He also is an engineer, and the times that we had chosen to move overseas have very much been decisions that were in his hands. And the reason I say that is because I knew for me that ExxonMobil was going to look after me and give me opportunities that were going to help my professional development no matter where we were based. But for him, it was going to mean him having to take a step back on his career. And so each time we've made that decision for another overseas placement, really that has been his decision, because without the support that he's been able to provide for our family, and also the fact that he too sees these as adventures that we can enjoy together, I would not have been able to balance everything. You know, as Shauna said before, you know, we can all say that we can have everything, and we all like to think we can have everything, but the reality is that there are decisions and choices and sacrifices that do need to be made along the way. And so having a strong partnership and strong family support has been absolutely essential to me continuing on my career, you know, to the extent that I've been able to. So if you go to the next page, one of the other things I joke about often is that I've had many different jobs without ever having to quit one of them. And again, that has been partly a personal preference. You know, I'm somebody who likes variety. I like to try different things. I have always been one who wants to keep my options open, quote unquote. And so ExxonMobil's been able to afford me the breadth of experience that I have always yearned for. But the other thing I will say is that the reason I chose to join ExxonMobil at the time was actually based on a very family-oriented thing, even though it was a long way before I was planning to have children of my own. And it was the fact that the company had childcare that they sponsored for all employees, male and female. And to me, that really said a lot to me about the philosophy of the company, and that it really did, that it was recognised that having a career meant that there was a support network that you were going to need to be able to fulfil all of those interests and ambitions. And so that for me was one of the many reasons, but a very clear one, and I think back on it now, as to why I chose ExxonMobil over the other choices that were in front of me. The other reason I think I've stayed with ExxonMobil for so long is because I really do believe in meritocracy, and I believe that each person needs to be judged not on who they are or where they come from or what they look like, but by the contribution that they make. And I suppose, you know, early in my career, I was very hopeful that this was the way things really are done, but perhaps a little bit skeptical. Were people really, you know, the right people being rewarded at the right time with the right degree of privilege or understanding? But as I became more and more involved in the performance assessment processes, it really did help me understand to what extent, you know, it is important to look at the data when you are trying to make decisions about the relative contribution of people. Because as Shauna mentioned earlier, you know, if we rely on individuals to only advocate for themselves and individuals to decide to determine at what rate they are promoted or at what frequency they receive a pay rise, you don't necessarily, it's not necessarily an equal playing field. So the fact that there are systems and processes that enabled that to happen without individuals only having to advocate for themselves, to me was a really important system and process that that I truly believe in. So if we go to the next page, One of the other things I just, these are just some statistics about ExxonMobil Indonesia and the levels of women that join ExxonMobil Indonesia, as well as ExxonMobil globally. I would say I'm pleased that these statistics are improving. I would say though that, nobody's claiming victory yet. These are still numbers that do not necessarily show the amount of diversity and inclusion that we need for all different types of individuals in a company. Women is only one of many measures, I understand that, but I suppose women in energy has been a discussion that we've been having for the longest time. And so, I'm pleased that things are heading in the right direction, but some of the same issues that Ibuki mentioned and Shauna mentioned are issues that I have seen, amongst work colleagues and my friends, both in ExxonMobil and outside of it, with regards to how to make that progression and still be able to balance all the other roles that we play in our lives. One thing that I think has been really important is us always having systems to de-bias, and particularly in STEM, because we are all so data hungry, logical people. I think that a recognition that bias is something that happens and that it is natural that it happens. Everybody has a bias. Our eye tends to be drawn to the things we like, to the type of people that are like us. That is just part of being human. But that doesn't mean it's right. And so, making sure that, we are always considering the reality of bias and making sure that there are checks and balances and that there is really strong advocacy from senior leaders to make sure to call out times where biases may be creeping in. And in my experience, these tend not to be deliberate. It really does tend to be often unconscious. And that when politely intervened on, when somebody may say, hey, why are you assuming that individual won't take that job just because she's a young mum or just because they're a dual working family? We shouldn't make an assumption that person would not accept this position. Why don't you give them the choice? Oftentimes when people are given the choice, they can surprise a management team on what choices they make. And so, I think that's an example of ways in which we can all play a stronger role in making sure that bias is dealt with appropriately and that the well-intentioned comments are not don't unfairly create delays in career development, whether that be for women or for anybody else in an organisation. And then finally, we're just going to turn to the last page here. I didn't plan to go through this with any amount of any detail, but what I would say to you is that when I reflect back on these items that I've sort of over time have become a mantra for me, or have really become my credo. These were not the things that I thought were going to be the most important to me when I started in my career. And so, wisdom comes over time. We continue to learn. There are things here that I probably, if asked at the beginning of my career, I would have, the first time I became a supervisor, I never would have said that the people I should be thinking about first as my first team as the other supervisors. I'd be saying, no, the people that work for me, they're my first team, So, over time, we do evolve our thinking as we learn and and watch other role models inspire and motivate us. But I suppose the last point I just wanted to end on was really the last one here on the page about diversity. And whilst it's really important for organisations to have, as I said, good procedures and processes, good role modelling, and leaders who provide advocacy for groups, particularly women in STEM, we do need to remember that inclusion is the real value of diversity. And so that even if you do have a seat at the table, if you choose not to include yourself, this whole concept that inclusion starts with it starts with it starts with me, you know, and that it does take courage to make the tough decisions. And it does take courage to speak up, even if it is not your natural preference to do so. But if you've got something important to say, believe me, it matters. And so that's really the last message I just really wanted to leave you with, was that, you know, for each of us, this is our own personal journey. I'm, again, just sharing mine so that it might give you some thoughts and might help to cultivate a little bit more of the conversation when we get to that part of the session. So thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Melanie. So I see you have very diverse experience. You travel around the globe, that you learn a lot of different culture. It's very nice to see also in a Q&A session how you adopt in the different culture. And also I see that you pointed some of the key point of the leadership is be authentic and also speak up, don't be afraid, and to be firm. Okay, thank you. And we're going to our last speakers, Ibu Dian.
Wow, what a panelist! I'm speechless to sit with such illustrious female leaders. Very nervous, actually. It is a great honor, and thank you, SPE, for asking me to be part of this really wonderful evening. It is Saturday evening for me, but absolutely this is really a great Saturday evening for me. And listening to the three female leaders, I worry this last session will be a good closing or not. So I'm going to try my best. And I just have to thank you for all three female leaders, because I already learned so much. Thank you. So to start with me, I'm probably on the other side of oil and gas. I'm from downstream, and mostly my experience are in downstream. I've been in Shell for 12 years. If we can go to the next slide, 12 years plus. And this is actually my fifth company. If we can go to the next one. So as I listen to the speakers before me, one thing I realized is that as I move around, I was trying to find home. So I moved probably every 3 years in my previous companies. All gave me great learnings. But this one, I stay for 12 plus years, and I intend to stay for many more. And that's because it's a home where I can really grow. Just very quickly about me, I move across functions and commercial, because downstream are mostly we can say marketing, sales marketing led business. It is for retail consumers as well as key accounts. And it's a very dynamic business as well, just like any other part of oil and gas. And that's excite me a lot. Within downstream and across the experience that I have, I've done functions as well. I've done finance, I've done procurement, IT as well. So if I reflect, to me, what make career life for me interesting, it has been a great journey, that I experienced together with my family. In fact, there are few times when I have to do a global webcast out of Indonesia when my daughter was still maybe 3-4 years old. So we have to stay in the office to make sure the internet is stable. So it was me and my husband and my daughter. We treat it as a picnic. So while I'm doing my webcast, they are sleeping next to me. So it has been a great journey overall. And as I move across countries, both in project terms as well as in a longer term role, I experience being different, because being Indonesian in Shell at the global setting is already different, because there are not many of us there. But being Indonesia and female definitely stand out. There were times where I have to go into a room where there is no seat reserved for Indonesian, and I have to really go around. Being Javanese and introvert, it takes a lot of courage, but I found that that is part of the learning, and that's how I grow. So it really is something that I can say, character growth. And one learning throughout my career is that being different is actually exciting, and what it takes, at least from my experience, is courage to really raise my hand, raise my voice. I think Ms. Noonan said that you tend to sit at the back. I did too, and I worked my way up my courage to be able to. If I don't have a seat, then I just stand in front and raise my hand. Eventually, somebody will notice, and then we can have conversation. So that's my personal learning in terms of diverse. But my session will not just talking about me, but also women in Shell across businesses who have been also being very different and very successful, and how we can together grow. So I hope that will give the audience a little bit of consideration or stories that will help you to think about how you can also progress in your career. Even if you can go next. So there will be a little bit of a Shell story here, and the intention is to set up for the next part of the story, so that we have a complete context. Just a little bit about Shell. We are mostly downstream companies. We have a retail fuel business, we have a lubricant business, we have bitumen business. They are all large and growing, and they are all span across the region, and they are all globally recognized as one of the large business with large potentials. And this is important because with our 500 employees being what we call future heartland, so the country that is being focused to grow, talents are important to make sure we will indeed growing, and therefore the story of diversity for Shell Indonesia is also how all the talents, Indonesian talents, can really grow this business so much so that we are going to be recognized as one of the largest business within Shell. Comparable to other Asian countries, hopefully, and being different, being Indonesian, we hope will be able to be advantage to us, because we are able to understand our market, but also we are able to leverage our differences to really stand out, as talent. If we can go next. one of the things that this year teaches us is that when we look at what matters in terms of trends here, there are few that to us worth looking at. We look at sectors that are impacted. We also look at new trends that are accelerating, such as sustainability and shifting to digital. And also things that matters to us become even more important, like cost saving and also taking care of our family, because in Shell we call ourselves family. And this is important for us in terms of diversity, because we are diverse, we are able to survive and thrive in this challenging era. Different segment, so different generation, genders, geography, origin, we can understand, or we bring our differences to understand all these trends well. For example, looking at digital, if we look at multi-generation, there are challenges in terms of some of the older one. Me, for example, if I have to talk about analytics, it takes me to learn. And we do cross mentoring for leader like me, so I can understand better. Similarly, when we look at health and welfare, it is inevitable that some of us, for example, female leader like me, I tend to look at the details a lot more to make sure that we are really taking care of our family. And therefore, for example, during this digital era, I thought maybe if we look at medical online as our additional benefit, it will help. So that's something that we continue to look out and also listen from varying differences between people or member family in Shell. So that's how we survive and thrive, and how we leverage diversity. If we can go next. And also during this era of pandemic, the Royal Dutch Shell launched an updated leadership framework, and the reason I want to share here is that one of the things is that leadership is really, genderless, looking at no generation. What is important, at least in Shell, but I also believe personally everywhere, is that learner mindset, being able to learn from success as well as drawback, as well as failure, is important for us to continue to grow. Learning from anyone, within company, talking to other people, our partners, our consumers, our customers, help us to be able to be more resilient. But at the same time, what is important, especially as we want to advance our career, is that we want to be able to maximize our performance. And one of the things as we grow as a leader is to be able to engage and inspire, to get people motivated, to get people to really get excited about fighting and then winning. And one of the things from my personal experience is that values is important. In Shell, we have values such as, safety first, being respectful to others, celebrate diversity. Those are values that we want to bring to life, so we can always get engaged and inspired, no matter how hardship we experience in life. And probably this year is definitely a year to remember. And if we can go to the next slide. Now, this is my pride and joy. Definitely, if you can see, if we're talking about leaders, female leaders in Shell, they are the most senior one, and they are diverse. Some of them started from graduate. Some of them experienced hire newly recruited. Some of them have been in the business, for quite a while. Some of them are in STEM related role. Some of them are leaders. Some of us, business leaders, business unit leaders. There is CFO, there is digital lead, there is marketing. So this is just some of the example how we want to continue to grow our female leaders. There are more to come, and they are basically some of the more illustrious one. What is similar with them are that they are internationally, acknowledged as top talents, and therefore they are progressing well. And what is similar as well is that all of these 6 are not only growing themselves, but helping others, female, to be able to grow. So they do mentoring, they do coaching, and so on and so forth. So really, growing is all about for us to grow together and really helping other female to be able to progress. And we can go to the next slide. This is just a small slide to show that for us in Shell, and if we just look at the my pride and joy, the Shell female leaders, these are the example of the diverse outcome that we have been able to deliver. And the reason why we are able to deliver this because of the diversity. As you can see, some of the achievement are in marketing, some of them are community based, some of them are really business based, and some of them are digital. So what is important when we look at diversity is being purposeful. Really, what is the purpose for us? And then if we have shared purpose, and then we can then leverage the difference that we have and then help each other so that we collectively can really progress. I mean, in Shell, as you can see, the hashtag, we really want to do something for the country. And therefore, all of this have a pattern which basically we want to do this so that it either for Indonesia pride or to help Indonesia grow. If we can go to the next slide. This is just a quick slide to show how we continue to develop our strength in diversity and inclusion. I found or I established this women network as soon as I can, which was in 2016, and since then we have many generation of female leaders leading it. What is important is that this is what we call peer networks. It's not company sponsored. Nobody say, well, what is the mandate, but everybody sit together then and let's do it. And as a female leader and as a talent in general, what is important is I learned is that we never have to be worried about raising hand and says I want to do this. As long as they are good and they benefit the community, have the courage to actually go and do it, and you get the joy, but also you feel that being different, being who you are, help in bringing you success because of what you do. If we can go to the next slide. Lastly, is this slide is basically talking about how Shell support our diverse employees. But what is important in this slide is this is why I joined, but also some of these are because of our team, our member of family in Shell actually say, this is a good ideas to consider. Why don't you consider? And therefore, what is important as we want to grow our career, do not hesitate because of our diversity to raise hand. Because it is important for us to always remember that as you are able to raise hand, to ask, and that will be the first step as a leader, and that will be the first step as a talent as well. Just to close, for me, it has been a great adventure, as I said, for my career. You know, being first woman, and Indonesian woman at that, it's such a great honor in Shell that they take a risk on me. Sometimes, even when I don't have the required experience, but I have the conviction that I can make it happen. And what I learned is that for us to progress, you know, as female, but also as male, as talent in general, just two things to consider. Number one, I found that being purposeful helped me to always guide what I do. So my North Star, in a way, that I know that I'm always doing the right thing, I'm progressing on the right direction. And number two is that I probably say this like a broken record, but do not be, you know, do not be afraid to raise your hand and say, I want this, I want to progress, you tell me how. Because even if there is nobody have done it before, why not be the first one, right? Why not make history? Because why not, right? So I think that hopefully a small stories from me and from Shell that will help you, giving a little bit ideas and hopefully inspire, so that we can really celebrate our diversity and really progress as a talent that make Indonesia proud. I always say Indonesia bisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Dian, for this very inspiring. I guess I put some, you said that you working in very diverse environment with a different cross function, and you are like elected during this very challenging time during COVID-19. So I see that you also put a point how we quickly adapt to everything. So to the environment, to the different like we have a different generation now, up and down, and they also have a different thinking. So, and don't be afraid to speak up. Raise your hand so everyone can see you, even you are only asking the question. Okay. So now we're going to open the Q&A session. We received some of the question. I will open for one first. Maybe if I tell your name, you can also put your video or speakers. Is to Bella Donna. You can ask for the one or two questions to the speakers, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thank you for all the awesome speakers, Ibu Dian, Ibu Evita, Miss Melanie, and Miss Shauna. So I think I have a few questions. The first one is to Miss Shauna that I was going to ask, like, how can you give us a tips to us as a female that we can claim our achievement and communicate it to the management more effectively? So that's the first question. And then the second question to Ibu Evita. First of all, thank you for being the pioneer for us, the women here in Indonesia, that, you know, you show us that we can do it. We can be a leader in Indonesian oil and gas industries. So the question to Ibu Evita is, how important do you think for female to be in the company as in general, and then what is the importance of a female to be in a leadership or management position in the oil and gas industry? That's all. Thank you so much for inspiring us.
All right, so I think the first question was addressed to me, and thank you. Those are very excellent questions, by the way. I had two tips on in my career that I didn't get a chance to embellish on. One was the leadership skills, and the fact that you know, at least with a lot of the organizations that I have, a lot of men aren't necessarily stepping up to lead something. They all want to contribute to content and not necessarily lead. So I actually stepped up, and some of the, you know, in my bio, I did a lot of stuff with industry standards. And, you know, I chaired those not because I was a subject matter expert, but it's just a lot of them didn't want to lead. But one of the advantages that I found was it not only helped hone my leadership skills, because in a lot of oil and gas companies, it's like a chicken and an egg. You're not considered for a leadership position until you can demonstrate those skills. But then how can you demonstrate them if that's a requirement? So I would actually use SPE and chairing a lot of these international standards groups to then really demonstrate to my management that I did have those leadership skills and be considered for the roles. At the same time, it's the leader that sets the schedule. And that's how I was able to get work-life balance in a lot of these teams that I ran, because then I got to schedule those commitments in around my personal family commitments. One of the big international standards committees that I chaired, they had no idea that I was actually scheduling those meetings around my Girl Scout troop meetings, because I was a Girl Scout leader at the same time. The second part of that was demonstrating value. You know, I do have a lot of the publications, the papers that I wrote, they were never really intended to be presented at a conference. That wasn't my end goal. I knew within my company structure that with the approval process, several people in upper management had to read my proposed papers in order to get approved for me presenting them at conferences. And it's that outcome was letting upper management know through reading the papers that I was proposing, the value, not only the work that I was doing, but the value that I was bringing to the company. So those are my two quick answers to that question. And now I'll turn it over to the lovely Miss Vita to answer the second part.
Thank you. And I would like to answer from the question from Bella. First is the importance of the presence of women in a company. For me, it will complete the company itself. You cannot imagine if all in the company, the leader are only men. So it will be different if you have women there, because all you think it will be not exactly the same between men and women. Yeah. So each of us, I think it will make complete the decision of the company or the activities of the companies. And the second one is about the presence of the woman in the leadership position in the company. I think it's almost the same, because I think how the men lead a company and how women lead the company, I think it will be it's not the same. In my experience, I think here is more for women leaders. I hope that all of you also agree with me that women is normally more you can do more than one thing. So but I think a man they're already too focused, so they cannot make in the same time thinking many things. Yeah, but not women. Women is we used to do that. Yeah, we think everything. So I think it will be make the company more complete. This is, I think, both of the answer is only more complete, make the companies more complete. Thank you, Bella.
Okay, for the next question, so I think I have a question for Ibu Melanie. Because there is also a male here listening to our session, and you also leading a lot of male, especially in in Indonesia, also in the field, there is a lot of male compared to female. So if they see they have a subordinate and they want the subordinate to be a leader, and what is some of wonders, how could they do to contribute to promote their fellow woman colleague in the career development?
Great question. Really good question. You know, it's I think you know the most important part of that question is recognizing the need to advocate. You know, so already you're a good supervisor if you are asking questions about how can I do the right thing by each of the people in my team. I think a lot of it is not a male versus female thing. A lot of it is often around, well, what are the individual needs and aspirations of that team member? And, and I think stereotypically women are not necessarily as forthcoming at offering those opinions, and that's not always true. That's why I say stereotypically. And so often it's a case of really just investing the time with those individuals, whether they be just a shy male or, a stereotypical woman who may not be, is not looking for the limelight per se, to make sure that you really do understand what their career aspirations are, what they feel that their gaps are, and that you can have those very open and honest two-way conversations about what you see their strengths being. Because, I'll say to you, in my personal experience, a lot of my self-confidence came from my supervisors independently saying to me, I see this in you. I see you are good at this. I see you've improved in that. I see that you have the potential to do XYZ job. So my confidence was not strong from the beginning, and it wasn't self-ignited. It really came from senior people around me recognizing and celebrating the successes I was having. So that would be probably my best advice, is know your people. Don't accept I don't know as an answer. If they say they don't know what they want to do with their career, keep exploring until you help them know. But also celebrate them. Showcase each person's successes, not just to other people that matter, but to those individuals as well, because that is really what fuels self-confidence.
Okay. Thank you. So next question is for Ibu Dian. As you mentioned, you are take this role on the challenging time, and also maybe you can share a little bit how you actually started during this pandemic, and what kind of the obstacle that you facing during the pandemic. And also you said, Melanie also talking about the mentoring and leadership and learn from your supervisor. You also have maybe female and male supervisor, and what you learn and the key point that you put it in your today current leadership.
Good question, brilliant question. Thank you very much. I guess for me, if I look at the journey that I am in, I have many mentors in my life, and I share this with my mentees as well, that sometimes the company, appoint a mentor to you or a coach to you, but if you do find somebody else that is amazing, be a bit shameless to approach them. Be daring in probably almost a cost, almost like coming to them and say, hey, I really want to learn. And that's how I progress in my career. Whenever I see somebody who's amazing, I just approach them and say, hey, I'm your fangirl. Can I please get 1 hour every 3 months to just learn from you? Let me ask you a couple of questions for 30 minutes so I can learn. And therefore, I have many mentors and coaches, and I learn a lot from them. One of the things is that in my career, I always feel that every time I get promoted, I always feel that this is it. I don't think I will go any further, because I don't know, that's too much for me. And but I always love what I've been given. And some of these mentors and coach always said to me, don't think about this is it, think about, let's see what other doors available, and go and explore and just knock. What's the worst that will happen? They just don't open, right? But there is no harm in it. So that's one of the things that I learned. And there are times when I'm having drawback in my career, and really feel like sitting in the corner and just facing the wall. One of the best advice I was given is that whenever I face that situation, and especially when that situation feels a little bit on the heavy side, channel your energy into something positive that you can do. If that's even more difficult, just stop and then smell the roses for a while. The business will not stop, the world will not stop, just pick yourself up. So that has been something that I learned throughout the years. But this year is a special year because I think probably one of the worst year ever. And this is the year where I start my role as a president director. So a lot of learning, a lot of uncertainty, probably a couple of nerve-wracking moments, and although not many, but there are few where I feel like I want to sit in the corner facing the wall. But because of what I've been told by my mentors, by my coach, I can pick myself up and then progress. I learned definitely another thing is that learning from anyone is important. Asking questions always important. Don't be shy or don't be embarrassed and doubtful whether your question is smart question or not. Reach out to people. 99.9% they will help. And that's how for this kind of situation, era where so much uncertainty, that's how we learn. The more we learn from other people, the more we hear, the richer I am to be able to make hopefully decision with enough context. That's definitely something I learned this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Dian. Okay, we open again question. We received the question from Rosa Belinda. If you can unmute your speaker and video, then you can ask directly to the panel.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the speakers, very inspiring. And I have a question, but it is not specific for any of the speakers, so anyone can answer. My question is, well, as mentioned before, it is sometimes difficult for women to continue working in the field or project sites due to personal or family matter. However, in order to be capable and to feel confident and to gain trust from the coworkers to lead the male-dominated industry, how important do you think it is to have experiences in the field? And how do women with less field experience can compete with men for leadership positions? Thank you.
Okay, since I'm the one that first brought that up, I'll step up here. So what I really meant to get across was exposure to the field. And so there's that mindset that you'd have to take a position per se. And yes, that is what I did in my career, but it's overall exposure. So, and whether it's being able to, work into your schedule, maybe a daily visit to the plant or to the field, getting that where you can schedule it around your personal commitments, that will go a long way. Because again, it's being able to see it. And a lot of times in the operational roles, there's almost a different language per se. And just having that exposure, I don't think is that difficult in many of the situations, especially now in the fact that we're in a virtual space. You know, for example, I spent a lot of my career traveling to different countries to do equipment dismantles, which really helped me along my career path. But now with COVID-19, a lot of these facilities now are able to do it in a virtual space. So I'm able then to still participate in equipment dismantles while being in my home and being there for my family per se. So again, it's finding ways at least to get that exposure. But I think kind of a silver lining because of the pandemic, companies are finding ways for people to get that exposure even without even having to travel to those locations. So that's my response to your wonderful question.
Thank you for the question, Rosa. I think this is you asking about how important to have experience. Yes, it is important actually, because experience will be one of your value that will be taken by your boss. Yeah, but how to get the experience? Of course, just do your best, because in my experience, the work will come to you if you do everything your best. Yeah, this is the first. And how do women with less experience compete with men? Yeah, it is not so easy, as I mentioned before also, that actually woman has to prove herself more than men. This is in Indonesia, it's still like that. I hope it's not anymore too hard as before, because now it looks like it's better and better. Yeah, but as long as you do as good as you can, for me is enough. Yeah, just be yourself and do as best as you can. This is my recipe. Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you for the answers.
Okay, I don't know if you're looking for everyone to respond or not, or but I can just offer a couple of other thoughts. I think more and more there are less and less rules. I think that's kind of, you know, there are traditional ways of moving through certain, you know, career paths that have been the ways best trod, you know, the road most walked. But more and more, I think people are recognizing that there's more than one way to get to an endpoint, and that everybody's idea of what that endpoint is different as well. You know, one thing that every technical organization needs are technical subject matter experts. And, you know, there is an element of that is always, you know, going to be about, well, not just how it works in theory, but how it works in practice. But as others have already said, technology is bringing a lot more to our desktop, which is kind of helping in some of those ways. But also in the spirit of diversity, I'm seeing more and more companies appoint individuals into senior management roles that don't necessarily have the traditional experiences that would find them there, you know, at a president director level and so on and so forth. Because the idea being, well, you need diversity in the team. And if the team are very strong operationally, very strong technically, but perhaps don't have as strong, you know, commercial and strategic capability, then that is the person that's brought into the team to you know, oversee that team at a very high level. So, you know, I think the really good news for everybody is that a lot of the traditional paths are being challenged, and that, you know, and with technology, it's making just more and more possible beyond what we thought was the case in the past. So I'm very optimistic about what this means. And we've all got to remember, every single person, male, female, starting your career, mid-career, end career, there is a lot everybody needs to balance. And so more and more, you know, I think there is a stronger acknowledgement of that, but it's also incumbent on us to be very open with our supervisors about what those limitations are.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now the last Ibu from Ibu Dian.
I guess all the great points that has been shared by Ibu Evita, Ibu Melanie, and Ibu Shona have been probably enough. But maybe if I can take a little bit different lens, is that when we talk about competing, you know, between female and male, it's good to not think about competing between female and male. Just think about competing, you know, ourselves against another talents, and be confident of what you have will bring to the table the value to the company. My personal experience when I was first appointed as a director for lubricant, I do not have in Shell, you know, what we call a profitability responsibility before, or experience before. However, I have in mind already experience on other things that will make up for, if we look at it as a whole, for to be a PNL or to be a business leader. I think when we look at technical experience, similarly, is good to actually break down what is this technical experience we're talking about. Are we talking about looking at ability to look at the data, looking at problems, troubleshooting, and so on and so forth. So all of this we can bring to the table, and then we can compete against another talent. But what is equally important is that we need to always plan a couple of years ahead, planning on how we will build our experience. What is the building block we need for the kind of role that we want to go after? So if you have scenarios, I want role A, role B, role C, let's break it down. What are the requirements for this? And then let's think about how we can be the best candidate for it, and then let's go for it. Experience for, you know, field experience, technical experience, there are many ways to look at it, but most importantly is be aggressive in asking for it. In my career, I have always been aggressive in asking for you know, visit or experience. I sometimes bring myself without, you know, any invitation. Of course, you know, you have to go through the HSSE screening and all that, but nobody will say no when one of their team want to learn. It's just about scheduling, and if you are relentless enough to schedule yourself, people will just give in, especially if you know, if you commit that you will bring value. So be confident, be, you know, be structured in planning to gain that experience. But I think Ibu Evita said that, you know, we sometimes we feel that we have to be, you know, doing more than male, but that's just about, sometimes we are already know more, we already have enough experience. We need to articulate well that we are good for the job, that what we have is enough, and be really confident about it. Hopefully that will make up for being, you know, or that will help us to be seen as the strongest candidate for the role. Thank you.
I just want to highlight, Ms. Diane said something extremely important, and it was communicating where you want to go, because there are so many jobs that don't get posted. There's a lot of movement of people in positions behind the scenes, and if your management doesn't know what areas you're interested in or where you want to go, you may be forgotten when those positions get filled. So it's not only important to be communicating your value, you need to be communicating your career intentions and your career path. That is extremely important. And I'm so glad you brought that up.
Okay, since we also have a audience from mail, I will like to give a chance for some of the mail that join the session. If you would like to ask one question to speakers, please. No? Okay, if there is no from the male speakers, ma'am, so I will just quick one question because now we also almost at 9 o'clock. This is for Miss Sauna. So you said that there is a lot of things that we can do by a member in SPE. And you also show us there is a lot in the website of SPE, there is a lot of guidance, and also they develop a new things during the pandemic to help people in between job as well. So how do you see when we become a member, especially as female, that can also give us a lot of added knowledge and also in terms of networking that benefit to us? Maybe you can explain a little bit.
Okay. See, there were several elements in there. Well, first of all, you mentioned the networking. And again, it's so important to not only just have the network established within your company. Again, you know, Ms. Diane talked about, you know, there's women networks within certain organizations, and I'm a huge fan of the one at Shell. I've actually done some of the Shell Qatar women events. But it's very important to start establishing your network outside the company. Again, a lot of my movements, for example, my job at ConocoPhillips would not have transpired if it wasn't for a network that I had established outside of my company, and same even too with coming to Oxy. So that's where SPE is so strong, and as difficult as it is in the virtual space, just getting whether, for example, technical sections really have now allowed you to participate, especially in a virtual environment, within your own peer group, within your discipline. But just getting involved, even too, it's one thing to participate, but again, too, in the virtual space, it's very easy to be minimized and kind of be at the back of the room. It's getting out there and getting your name associated with really good questions, getting involved, you know, and that's, you know, I guess that's across a ton of our programs. Now, you quick mentioned the members in transition program and that too. And it's important for people to know that, especially during this next dues cycle, if you have been impacted with your employment and the fact that you've been furloughed or you've lost your job, we have this members in transition program that allows for a 2-year dues waiver, and also gets you into, within SPE, we have our own job board, but we'll have all these resources in that too to really help you, again, increase your own value, but also to you know, whether it's with interview skills, maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. There's all these different programs that are there for people. And again, it's like a gym membership. You actually have to get into, whether it's our website, our app is fantastic. There's so many other platforms now we're offering in the digital space, just to really help, when I talked about all those elements of human capital, really to expand on that. And it got mentioned at the very beginning about the SPE family. And again, we especially got to make sure during times like this that we reach out to one another. And this is what I found, something that was so motivating over this past year, was it wasn't just seeing members reach out with words of encouragement and motivation. It was the sheer volume globally of people that were doing that. So, you know, just to kind of a quick wrap up, you know, If you're not an SPE member, strongly consider being one, because I see it as my family, but also too, it has been the enabler for me to get to where I am. And for women that sometimes feel that they're the only one in the room, with all our diversity inclusion and our women events that we have, it's kind of empowering to be part of so many programs where I see there are many individuals like myself, like events just like this that you're doing. So that's my comment on that question. Very good.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe I will share a little bit my experience in SPE. There is a first that I also challenged myself that I will like to become a committee in HSC International Exhibition in Perth. So I wrote a essay and approved by my supervisor. Then I be able to present, and also after that, gradually I also become the chair on a session in SPE, Asia South Pacific and Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur at the time. So there is a lot of challenge. You can cross border. I've been also the committee in Doha at the time, but to the technical session. So I read a lot of essay, given rating. So it's also can border your knowledge, your thought, learning from others, from different industry, from experience. So please do so. If you hasn't applied, then we open every year the membership. Okay, since we are 9 o'clock past 2 now, for all of you, please, you can open the video. So we're going to take a photograph before we end up the session. So please, if you like to just open your video. So Fanya, can you lead the photo session? Okay.
Okay, I'll take a screenshot now. In three, smile in 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more. Smile in 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay.
Melissa.
Okay. Thank you so much. So for all the speakers, thank you so much for your valuable time and sharing your session. For you who already asked a question that hasn't replied, we try to collect all and also give the selected speakers. Hopefully you also would like to answer. And for all the who joined our session, thank you so much. And I'll see you again in next Woman in STEM series. Thank you and good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.